Hey! It's time for a Morris Mini Studio.
Welcome back, my artists. Today we are going to be doing a very short mini studio where I'm going to be showing you a value scale, and then I will be showing you how to turn that value scale into what we call a value finder. Let's get started. To get started, I have cut this piece of cardstock to 2.5 by 3 inches. If you don't have access to cardstock, the sheet from your sketchbook will work just fine. First thing I want to do is I want to divide this in half. So I'm going to go to the side. Half of 2.5 is 1.25. Move my ruler, not my work. Half of 2.5 is still 1.25. Now I need to divide the sides into thirds. If you did this correctly, you'll have 3 inches. So you just have to make one mark at the 1 and the 2. I'm going to move this up, and again, the 1 and the 2. Lines always get pulled towards myself. If you have a pen, you can do this next step. If you just have a pencil, you may not want to, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to number these. This is one of the lead holders that you've heard me talk about before, clutch pencils. You can see by pressing down, it opens up these little jaws, and here I've got a piece of graphite. To sharpen a clutch pencil, I have to get a specialized sharpener. They come in a little tiny variety along with this barrel. There you go. Next, I'm going to shade each one of these boxes. I'm going to, in this case, start with the number 6 as the darkest, then the 5 as the next darkest, the 4 as the next, the 3 is the next, the 2 is the next, and the 1 will just be shaded in just a little tiny bit. I don't want to rush this. I want to take my time. I want to do those little circles, overlap. In this case, I'm saturating with my pencil. When you're making this, you'll have to pay attention to where you're placing your fingers so that you don't smear your boxes. The trouble with making value scales is this. As you can see, my 1 and my 2, they're going to be too similar because I didn't really press hard enough to start off with. That's okay though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish shading in the 1 and the 2. And then I'll go back and I'll shade the 2 in a little bit darker than the 1. Also, if it's easier for you to make this value scale by using the full sheet of paper and then cutting this portion out, go for it. If you want to break from the cube shape that I'm using, that's okay too. Now it's time to go back over top of everything and do a second level of darkness. I want my 2 to stand out from the 1. Now that my 2 stands out from my 1, I need to make my 3 stand out from my 2. Now that my 3 stands out from my 2, I need to make the 3 lighter than the 4. So that means I got to darken in this number 4. If I'm darkening in 4, it means I have to darken in 5. So I'll do those at the same time. Just kind of like grading over both surfaces. So there's the gist of it. Now what we need to do is we need to seal it so that it doesn't smear. How are we going to do that? Well, there's a couple different ways. One, we can use hairspray. Yes, you heard me correctly. I said hairspray. If you have hairspray laying around, first, make sure you have permission to use it. But second, take your hairspray and just give this a misting. The hairspray will act as a fixative and it'll keep the graphite from smearing. But for me, I prefer to laminate things, so I've got some tape. All right, so now I've got this nice little laminated value scale. And if you're able to get your hands on a hole punch, this is ideal. However, if you can't, technically you can use a pair of scissors. If you're very careful and make sure that you're using a surface that you're allowed to use and that you're allowed to use the utility blade, you can use this. But we need to remove just a little bit, a hole in each one of these. Now I have a hole in each one of my values. I have them numbered, they're separated. This, my friends, is a value finder. Now you may be wondering, what is a value finder used for? Well, it's used for finding values. So let's say I want to replicate this drawing. The value of this creature's wing right in this spot is about at a 2. So now I know that I can take this over to wherever my drawing is and I can start to shade in, and when I shade, I try to match this value.
To recap, make sure that you fill out notes for this lesson. Make sure that you've created a value scale and with at least 6 values. Last, we want to turn that value scale into a value finder. Until next time, my students, I'm Mr. Morris. Have a great day.